To address the elephant in the room. I'm the hottest person.
That's the message that they wrote a script that's telling girls, I don't need nobody tells me I'm a 20-year-old girl, so obviously I should run my mouth all the time.
Debut weekend for any Disney live-action remake beating 2019's
Every hour that it is streamed online.
If I'm gonna stand in a dress all day long, we do that, all women do that anyway. You know what, we walk around in dresses and we don't get paid for it. Rachel?
The message hit Rachel Zegler like a brick. Marc Webb, the director who once hailed her as the perfect embodiment of Snow White, had quietly reversed course.
It's bigger than I could have imagined. I'm just super delighted and to celebrate with my lovely cast and crew.
In a hushed conference call with studio insiders, he admitted that his early praise might have been overzealous and hinted that he wished he'd let the finished film speak for itself. The quote circulated behind closed doors for only a few hours before it leaked online, and within minutes, Zegler's phone exploded with texts.
I'm so disappointed in Disney. And I'm not saying this as a moviegoer. I'm not saying this as someone who's railing against DEI. I'm saying this as a stock owner in the company of Disney.
Friends who spoke to her that afternoon say she burst into tears, devastated that the filmmaker who discovered her had publicly distanced himself. She felt blindsided and betrayed, already exhausted from months of relentless backlash. When the news spread across social media, Marc Webb backtracks on Zegler praise. The actress reportedly locked herself in her apartment, refusing calls from even her closest confidants. One acquaintance described her mood as a mix of heartbreak and fury, sobbing one moment and railing the next that she'd been hung out to dry by the very people who once put her on a pedestal.
For Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler and a wonderful queen, because there's another one in town.
What stings most is that Webb's original endorsement was a cornerstone of Disney's marketing. Early press releases trumpeted his words about Zegler's once-in-a-generation voice, positioning her as the centerpiece of a bold new take on Snow White. Those words were printed on posters, quoted in magazines, and referenced in talk show banter. Now, with the film's box office numbers plummeting and public opinion brutal, Webb's retreat feels like a stamp of disapproval. For Zegler, it confirms her worst fear. The narrative has flipped from fresh talent reimagines a classic to unproven star ruins beloved property, and the director's about-face will be cited forever as proof the studio regrets betting on her.
Stock in 2015 was about $100. In 2025, it's still $100. For the last 10 years, Disney, you ain't done shit. I'm trying to save that money. I'm trying to invest that money. I'm trying to grow that money.
Gone.
Stock price has done nothing in 10 years.
The timing could not have been worse. Just days before Webb's walkback leaked, Zegler had endured an emergency meeting with Disney's legal team over accusations she'd breached promotional guidelines and tarnished the brand. She arrived with her own lawyers, bracing for a grilling about everything from calling the prince a stalker to tweeting "Free Palestine" beneath a Snow White teaser. Disney's attorneys pressed her on contractual clauses that require talent to honor the legacy of classic characters. Zegler countered that studio memos encouraged her to champion the remake's progressive angle and that her comments merely followed instructions. The session ended without resolution, but tension was palpable. Then, while she was still processing that confrontation, Webb's reversal surfaced.
I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and it is I have to pretend like, oh God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
Wait, how often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
I'm a narcissist. I don't know. It's always like my publicist Ashton was with me the last time it happened, and I was like, God, I hope no one, because every time they come up to me, I'm always online for this freaking ride, and they think it's like I'm standing there waiting for the photo op, being like,
Well, you kind of are, you know?
No, I guess
like
so.
if Harrison Ford's not standing outside of Indiana Jones.
For an actress already teetering on an emotional edge, hearing that her biggest creative ally had effectively disavowed her felt like the last straw. Insiders say she collapsed onto her living room floor, sobbing that everyone was turning on her to save themselves. Webb's retreat, though, is just one piece of a spiraling saga that has turned Snow White 2025 into a case study in how fast a blockbuster can unravel. The trouble began months earlier when Zegler's interviews framed the 1937 original as dated, weird, and laden with problematic romance. She promised a new Snow White who needed no prince, a declaration that thrilled some progressives but alienated nostalgic fans.
They put it all on her. Now they've failed. Here's what happened. She made the cardinal error of saying free Palestine on Twitter. So she could say all that men are bad and it's this and that, but once you do that, now they've put the entire weight of the failure upon her.
Then came her pointed political posts, denouncing Trump supporters, supporting Palestine, at precisely the moment Disney was courting family audiences. Studio executives panicked, especially after Gal Gadot, Zegler's co-star and an outspoken supporter of Israel, began receiving threats so severe that Disney hired additional security. The rift between the two actresses widened at press events, culminating in an awkward award show appearance where they avoided eye contact. Every clip of that tension went viral, fueling speculation that the set had been a battleground.
Welcome, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot.
Visual effects push the boundaries of what we see on screen.
Their work makes the impossible seem possible.
With breathtaking ambition, they create magic that wraps its arms around our wildest imaginations.
Here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects.
Internal leaks later confirmed the production was riddled with problems. Ballooning budgets, multiple rewrites, entire musical numbers reshot to soften themes after test audiences complained. Rumors spread that Andrew Burnap, hired as a romantic lead, feared his scenes might be slashed entirely because the film no longer wanted a prince. He'd once told People magazine the role would change his life. Now friends say he's bracing for his big break to vanish in the edit suite. Each new hiccup chipped away at Disney's confidence. Marketing plans were revised, then revised again. Talk show appearances for Zegler were quietly canceled under the guise of scheduling conflicts, but insiders admitted the studio was terrified she'd speak off-script and ignite fresh controversy.
But imagine you spend $250 million and you get some young girl and you don't kind of talk to her about like, hey, you know, don't get political, you're young, and I know you have opinions about things, but should be just about the movie.
Well,
let's just
to defend Big Head Girl, let me tell you something. The message of the movie is to be that bitch.
While Disney tried to control damage, the wider world piled on. South Park's writers saw an irresistible target. In a special that aired only weeks before the film's release, they lampooned the remake with a version of Zegler screeching, about saving society while trampling beloved story beats. The parody's highlight was a meltdown scene where the animated Zegler berated co-workers for questioning her vision. The skit spread across Twitter and TikTok overnight. Clips juxtaposed the cartoon with real-life interviews, and viewers marveled at the uncanny resemblance. Within hours, hashtag Snow White fiasco trended worldwide. Disney's board, already jittery, realized the film was no longer just a troubled release. It had become a cultural punchline.
Snow White bombs, breaks records for the lowest live-action remake opening ever.
Zegler's private reaction to the parody was explosive. Friends say she felt humiliated and furious that a show she grew up watching mocked her persona so mercilessly. She wanted to post a rebuttal, but Disney's PR team pleaded with her to stay silent, warning that responding to South Park only magnifies the ridicule. The gag order infuriated her. She felt muzzled, forced to watch her image crumble while executives strategized. When Webb's reversal surfaced days later, the sense of abandonment reached a crescendo. To Zegler, the message was clear. The studio, the director, maybe even co-stars, everyone was scrambling to protect their own reputations while pinning the fiasco on her. Financial stakes only deepened the pain.
Somebody said, yes, I need the romance. I feel like it's pushing career mode on us too. I work every day. I need the romance to escape. Another person said, so we're all in agreement that none of us are watching this movie. Somebody else said, if the writer/actor strike takes anything away, I hope that it is this movie. Someone else said, let Snow White be a woman who yearns for love and leads with kindness. That's the bare minimum, literally. Like, do whatever else you want with the movie, just keep those values. Again, the bare minimum. Somebody else said, yes, I'm tired of rescuing myself, being my own best friend. I want to know I'm loved and cherished. I want love stories. Like, that's so sad that that's something that women are asking for in film and TV. I mean, I know what you guys are going to say. It's their own fault. It's feminism, which it is. Third and fourth wave feminism, they did that. But you know what? A lot of women are tired. A lot of women did not ask for this, just like myself.
Snow White's budget is rumored to sit near $270 million, and domestic grosses barely crossed $40 million in 2 weeks. Analysts predict it could lose over $150 million after marketing costs. Retail partners slashed prices on dolls and costumes. Disney, known for synergy, canceled planned theme park tie-ins. Shareholders grumble that the once bulletproof remake strategy has turned toxic. Some insiders whisper about rebooting Snow White yet again in a few years, quietly burying Zegler's version as though it never happened. The notion that her interpretation might be erased from canon horrifies the actress. She spent months in singing rehearsals, dance boot camps, and dialect coaching only to see the final cut overshadowed by headlines.
It's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
Webb's reversal gives cover to critics who argued from the outset that Zegler was miscast, too dismissive of tradition, or too politically outspoken. He hasn't issued a formal statement. But those leaked remarks, "I spoke too soon. The film should speak for itself," feel like an open apology to fans angry about the remake's direction. They also reinforce the studio's legal position that Zegler's media missteps, not corporate strategy, poisoned public sentiment. Zegler's legal team, however, reportedly possesses internal emails praising her feminist talking points and encouraging bold commentary. If she sues for damages, those documents could become evidence that Disney courted controversy until it backfired.
No, Prince or a different kind of Prince?
I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yep. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Who the hell are you to say all of Andrew's scenes could get cut? Like, who are you?
Oh my God.
Are you Disney?
While Zegler contemplates legal action, she also confronts the reality that public goodwill is vanishing. IMDb scores hover near the bottom for Disney remakes, and YouTube reviewers dissect her interviews with scathing commentary. One viral montage splices her stalker prince remark with archival clips of other princess actresses expressing reverence for their animated counterparts. The contrast is brutal. Viewers repost it with captions like "Humility matters" and "Respect the classics." Even supporters who believe in modernizing fairy tales admit the execution stumbled. They lament that Zegler's enthusiasm to challenge norms overshadowed any nuanced conversation about evolving female heroes. Gal Gadot remains silent, maintaining a poised distance. Insiders say she finished required press obligations, then retreated, focusing on safer projects. Disney, wary of losing another star to backlash, keeps her out of the legal fray.
Have you ever considered that your fairy tales have actually stood the test of time because they are always relevant, because that is what a fairy tale is, because they have timeless, universal values and lessons that any person, regardless of their age, regardless of their generation, could connect to? That is why they are so important. That is why they have been around for hundreds of years. You didn't start these fairy tales. Grimm's fairy tales, that's where they came from. People love these for a reason, because of the values.
Meanwhile, Andrew Burnap, once certain the movie would transform him, keeps a low profile, hoping the fallout won't stain his future auditions. The dwarfs controversy, triggered when early photos showed CG stand-ins instead of actors with dwarfism, still simmers. Fans blame the studio for overthinking representation while under-delivering charm.
So it's not a progression at all to me. My issue with it is exactly what you said. There are actors, dwarf actors, that that dream to be in a major motion picture such as this Disney remake. And now, because Peter Dinklage said what he said last year, now it's taken away. And it's taken away because of quote-unquote progression.
The final product, some say, looks like an expensive lecture. Bob Iger now faces a dilemma. Publicly defending Zegler could alienate the nostalgic audience Disney must woo. Letting her twist in the wind invites accusations of corporate cowardice. Paying her off might quiet one voice, but could signal to future talent that lawsuits lead to lucrative settlements. The board's mood is said to oscillate between frustration and fatigue. One executive reportedly joked, "I wish a poison apple could end this news cycle." Gallows humor aside, the crisis underscores how fragile brand management becomes when a single casting decision collides with culture war flashpoints. In quieter moments, Zegler still insists she never meant disrespect. Friends recount her frustration that sound bites were plucked from longer discussions about empowering young girls. She feels nuance was lost, replaced by viral outrage. Yet she also acknowledges missteps. The timing of her political posts, the ease with which sarcasm can be misread online, the decision to label a cherished prince creepy without providing context.
That she believes that she should be able to express herself and speak her truth, or whatever nonsense, regardless of the consequences to everybody else.
She told one confidant she wishes she'd emphasized her admiration for Disney animation before critiquing it, but regrets don't erase headlines. And Webb's reversal means even the film's artistic architect has signaled second thoughts. Could Snow White still find redemption? Occasionally, movies savaged in early press surprise everyone with solid word of mouth once families see them. But early tracking suggests the audience has made up its mind. Empty auditoriums turned into memes, and kids' reaction videos show more excitement for the 1937 classic than the glossy remake. Parents, the gatekeepers of family spending, appear wary. They see headlines about legal showdowns, South Park parodies, and backstage feuds, none of which sell a whimsical night at the cinema.
The reason we had Rachel Zegler on the docket is she's an asshole. So she came out and took a large dump on half of the country, everyone who voted for Trump. So I attacked her, and then she came out and she said, I apologize. Like, I went too far.
For Rachel Zegler, the path forward looks daunting. Hollywood often forgives a flop, but rarely forgets a public relations disaster of this scale. She'll need a carefully chosen next role, something that showcases her talent without courting controversy. A return to Broadway could remind audiences why she was hailed as a prodigy. An indie film might allow a quieter performance to eclipse the noise, but until the Snow White storm subsides, every move she makes will be measured against this tumultuous chapter. Marc Webb's legacy also takes a hit. Known for revitalizing musical storytelling on screen, he now finds his name attached to Disney's most controversial remake. By walking back his praise, he protects future prospects but risks appearing disloyal. Industry veterans note that directors often distance themselves when test screenings flop, but rarely after championing their star so publicly. His about face will be dissected in film schools as an example of how creative endorsement can morph into liability when a project collapses.
I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow White.
Meanwhile, Disney, ever the juggernaut, will recover financially, but the lesson is seared into corporate memory. Meddling with a crown jewel property carries enormous risk when modern messaging eclipses timeless wonder. Executives will likely tighten control over star interviews, vet every script change through multiple nostalgia filters, and weigh the value of bold updates against the wrath of multi-generational fans. Snow White was supposed to reaffirm the studio's mastery of live-action fairy tales. Instead, it has become a cautionary tale about brand stewardship in an age where every quote lives forever online, and satire can devastate a marketing campaign overnight. Rachel Zegler's tears and outrage at Marc Webb's public betrayal mark a painful milestone in this unfolding saga. Whether she sues, settles, or simply walks away, the damage is done. The director's retreat signals to the world that confidence in her interpretation has evaporated at the highest creative level. For some viewers, that's validation. For others, it's a tragic example of a young performer cheered on, then abandoned when the tide turned. Either way, the fallout will echo through Hollywood's remake machine for years, reminding every studio that when you ask an audience to reimagine a legend, you'd better be ready to defend every choice. Because if the magic fails, no amount of modern gloss can hide the cracks in the mirror. Share your thoughts below. Was Marc Webb justified in backtracking, or should he have stood by his star? Can Rachel Zegler salvage her reputation, or is this betrayal the breaking point? Like the video if you found this breakdown insightful, subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's most dramatic moments, and click the next video now appearing on your screen for another explosive industry story.